Welcome to Festpod, the unofficial rock festival guide. I'm Neill Wilkinson for this special takeover announcement episode. So let's find out who we've got with us today. We've got, if we head down south, we've got Leigh. Hello, Leigh.
Good evening. How are we doing?
I'm all right. You're letting your hair grow, aren't you? I've noticed.
Well, we're coming into festival season, so generally speaking, I do let it grow a little bit. So I've actually got something to headbang with.
Oh, I thought you were planning a new hairdo or something like that.
I have contemplated this week dyeing it pink for download.
Oh, please do.
Yeah,
please do. I'd love to see that.
Remember last year I dyed it bright blue, or what was supposed to be bright blue that. For obviously the download poster. This year I might do pink, so we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, well, fingers crossed. I'm sure we'd all love to see that. And further north in the Midlands, we have Shorty E.
Hello, everyone. How are we?
I'm all right.
Good. How are you, Neil? Because I've not got much to say this week.
Haven't you?
No, I had a pretty boring week. Well, to a degree.
I see.
But
okay, well, just working, is it?
Just working.
No, not been to any gigs this week.
Oh, not this week. No, that was last week. Went
I
to
see.
Shikari
And
Sabaton.
So you're between
not the same
gigs.
gig, but that would be pretty sick.
Okay, that's all right.
But yeah, that's pretty much it, really. Living the dream.
All right. Well, because this is an amazing special takeover announcement episode, we have some special guests with us. We have, who am I going to mention first? Look at your faces there. We have the amazing Hevs with us from Scotland.
Hi guys, how you doing?
I don't know where you're from in Scotland. Where are you from in Scotland, Hevs?
Just outside Glasgow.
Oh, how nice! Yes, I'm there often in my.
I'm not going to tell you exactly where in case anybody tries to hunt me down and kill me. But yeah, I'm just outside Glasgow.
I'm sure your dogs will protect you, would they?
Oh yeah, they would.
You've got vicious dogs.
Vicious dogs, yeah, very vicious, yeah.
Yes, that's right.
Very, very vicious. Labrador, known to be one of the most vicious dogs on the planet, after all.
Oh, yes. Yes, big, large teeth and everything. And we've got Trish with us as well. Hello, Trish.
Hey, guys.
How are you?
Good, thank you. Yeah, not bad. Not bad.
Yes. Are you fresh from the gym?
Not today, no. I've not been for the last week. Unfortunately, I've not been very well for the last week. So this is the first anyone's seen of me in over a week.
Do you know what? It's a good point, actually. Get all your illnesses out the way now.
Yeah.
So that we've got a download free of illness and we can just enjoy ourselves, can't we?
We're less than 50 days to go, so get it all done now.
Oh my God. I've got 3 stone to lose.
I'll have it. That's fine.
Plus, now we've got an extra special guest now. We have the amazing Charlie Bowes from Seething, Akira.
Good evening, Neill.
Good evening. Nice to see you. Thanks for joining us on this special announcement.
It's good to be here.
I don't know where you're based, actually.
I'm also down south in Portsmouth, so right by the sea.
Oh, blimey. Okay,
I'm actually paddling right now. You can't see it, but I'm paddling.
We don't often have anybody that far down south. It's usually sort of Oxford level that we reach. But Portsmouth, wow.
Can't go much further or you're in France.
Well, yeah, exactly. What's it like to live in Portsmouth? Is it nice?
Okay, so pros and cons. That's a really long answer. It could be. But genuinely, it's really nice. I love the city, but it's like everywhere, right? You've got some not so great areas and you've got some nice areas, but you get good weather, so that's pretty good.
Oh, that's true. Yes, of course. Yeah, down in the south, whereas Hevs never sees the sun. You never see the sun in Glasgow, do you?
No. Well, maybe for an hour in July.
I was going to say there tends to be a day, one day.
Yeah,
because I'm originally from not very far from where Hevs is as well, so
oh right,
I grew up there. So, yeah, a day a year, sometime in July. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. All right, so let's get started with the announcement. Let's have a look at some amazing news, which we're all waiting for. Sorry for wasting your time with introducing the hosts, because no one's interested in that. You're not listening for that. You're not watching for that. You're only watching or listening to find out who has been put through for the Boardie Takeover. So I won't waste any more of your time. Hevs has the details.
I do indeed. So just as a bit of a starter, before we announce the bands, we had 527 bands apply this year. And the standard,
is that a record?
Yeah. Well, no, I think we had more. 2019 we had nearer 550, but this year we had 527 bands apply.
Wow.
The standard of talent was off the charts. It was just such a difficult decision. We managed to get it down to 23 bands in the final shortlist, and those were the bands that we chose, the 5 bands who would be playing from. And we had 15 people on the panel, and that's not including Trish and our other admin, John. I tend not to comment on the bands because I want to be sort of a step away from it and let everyone else do it, so that it's not, I'm not very involved in that stage. I just let the panel crack on with it. Only
you can't possibly stay impartial because you see them all coming through, don't you? You can't not have a look. You can't not press play on a few of those videos.
Yeah, I watch them as they're coming in. I mean, the very first day that we opened submissions, I think we had nearly 200 bands apply on the first day.
Just under, yeah. I wasn't even in the country that day because I was actually in Switzerland for work when we opened the submissions, because I was 5 minutes late doing it because of the time zone difference, because I got my hours mixed up.
I thought you got drunk and forgot.
No. But yeah, no, it was like just under 200 bands and it just kept going.
Yeah.
Wow.
And every day there was just more and more and more. And yeah, I do listen to them as they come in. And the more I listened to them, the more I thought, oh my God, this is just probably going to be one of the hardest ever years. And it really was. Wow. Charlie will probably talk to you about that later because he was on the panel this year as our guest judge. But yeah, so we ask all of the panel members to submit a spreadsheet with all their favourite bands on it, everyone they like, and that could be one band or it could be 100 bands. It's entirely up to them. And then I take that list and I put it into another spreadsheet and I figure out what bands are appearing the most across all of the spreadsheets. And there were some really clearly obvious favourites on there. There was a couple of bands that were appearing on 13 and 14 spreadsheets, so that was really something. They were really standing out from the start. And then other bands were going on there, so we kind of take any bands who show up on 4 or more spreadsheets, and Trish and I will then go through them, and at that point we make some decisions because we literally had about 30 bands that came across on 4 spreadsheets. So we had to reduce that. So we then start looking into their backgrounds, what they've done in the past, what they're doing touring wise, what they're more digging a wee bit more into their live stuff, and we kind of have to dwindle that down a bit. And we ended up with 23 bands on the shortlist, as I said. So yeah, it was a very, very, very difficult decision. And these guys are working on a very tight time scale. They don't really have any more than a week to decide on these bands, so they are literally glued to listening to bands for a whole week. And
it's a tough thing to do, isn't it? All those, I mean, you've not got hundreds of people working on this, have you? It's just
no,
a dozen.
Yeah, only 17 people, 18 people max. But I think that's a fair representation of different musical tastes, different styles. So it's people who go to the festival, it's people who are in the music industry, it's people who, not necessarily in a band, but they might be managing bands. They could be doing podcasts, music fans, basically.
Yes.
And that's the kind of people that we look for on the panel, and people who can be, that can judge it fairly, and that can step out of their comfort zones and look at the bands and appreciate them for what they are. An excellent band, really good live sets. There's something that they need. It's something they'll appreciate. They're at a stage in their career where it's really going to launch them, and give them that next step. So that's the aim anyway. So yeah, for a week the guys were in super secret takeover headquarters, and all they did was listen to and comment on the bands, comment on all the different aspects of the bands, the style, their videos, their live videos, their edited videos, where they've played before, have they played Bloodstock, have they played other festivals, are they playing the smaller festivals like Takedown Festival, things like that, and critiquing them basically, and looking to see, balance them off against what's on the main arena, and see, is that the type of music that's playing this year? Do we have that representation in the main stage? Are the fans going to be there for the bands? And we've come to a decision. We finally got down to 5 bands, and then we have a couple of days where we discuss what the actual lineup's going to look like. Where are those 5 bands going to sit? And ask.
Oh, it's so exciting!
Ask everybody to give me what their idea of a perfect lineup would be. Every single person picked the same band to headline. There was absolutely no discussion there. It was just everybody said this band. Everybody was like, perfect headliners, perfect headliners, perfect headliners. I was like, great, brilliant. The openers, perfect openers, perfect openers. It was just those 3 bands in the middle. There was a little bit of difference, but today we decided finally on the lineup and where those bands are going to come in that. So let's crack on, and we can tell everybody who they are. So let me just get my
let's do it.
My list up, because I'll forget everything. So the first band that we are announcing for the 2023 takeover at Download is Andromedus. These guys are an electronic metal hybrid outfit from Western Supermare. They class themselves as electronic music, primarily dubstep and drum and bass, with crushing metal riffs. They're made up of a DJ, 2 guitars and a bass player, and they're bringing to the takeover an arsenal of heavy hitting tunes. Comments from our panel this year were one of the favourites due to having a solid show idea and a great style, and someone else commented, I fucking love everything about them. So something a bit different. They are an instrumental band with a great live show, and they're very tight, so I'm looking forward to see what they bring.
What do you reckon, Charlie?
I'm crossover electronic metal. I'm quite a fan of that stuff. That's quite
really
nice. I warm to that, but yeah, just utterly incredible. Like you say, tight. They really are tight. It's great to check out the videos that are kind of produced and live. To see them playing live, and God, some really chunky riffs. They kind of masked up as well, which is adds to the mystery. But yeah, really like those guys.
I do love a band that wears masks.
Yeah. These guys were one of my top when we did the initial listen through, and then the shortlist listen through. I actually played them for my husband as well, and he was rather a decent fan now at this point. So yeah,
there was lots of positivity from the panel for these guys. I generally don't think there were any negative comments about them at all.
Wow.
Other than a few people asking if an instrumental band would stand up on that stage and be, enjoyed. And I don't think there's any doubt at all in my mind that these guys will put on an absolutely fantastic show that will have people absolutely bouncing.
Amazing. Who's next?
So the next band to be announced for the takeover for 2023 is North Atlas. These guys hail from the lowlands of the Solway Firth. They are Scottish, yay! They're bringing with them enigmatic electronics with a bold anthemic song, writing skills. They're filling the void between popular favourites like Biffy Clyro, Bring Me the Horizon. Very unique style of rock, which I really enjoyed. Some of the comments and the comments for these guys were absolutely hilarious. Who doesn't want to see a Thor lookalike belt out some tunes? Because if you've seen these guys perform, the very first thing people noticed was that lead singer looks like Thor.
Wow.
And another comment, which I believe came from a certain someone here, can you ask them to bring the rest of the Avengers along with them? So yeah, bit of fun with that one, because he does tend to look very Thorish.
Oh my god! Wow, I'm going to be up the front.
Very popular with the panel. Really good live show, really good energy, a unique brand of rock music. Really looking forward to seeing what they bring.
Wow, amazing. What were your thoughts, Shorty E?
I mean, I do want the rest of the Avengers that are pure and simple. But no, they're very, very good. They're very different to a lot of bands. They very much stood out in their style. So yeah, very, very good. Very excited for them. And I like Thor, so why not?
Leigh, what are your thoughts on hearing this? What's running through your mind?
I've come across North Atlas a couple of times on TikTok, and that's really exciting to hear that you've announced that they're playing. I'll be checking out every single band you mentioned. Purely, just I love the sorts of things you put on, like the Boardie Takeover and like the Metal to the Masses sort of battle of the band stuff. North Atlas, especially, that's quite exciting. I've enjoyed seeing everything they've put on social media recently. So yeah, that's a wicked choice. Amazing.
Charlie, any thoughts?
I'm jealous of the singer. He's too attractive. Shouldn't be on stage, basically. But apart from that, the band's really good. He's got some great vocals as well. But I can, to be honest, only echo the guys. It's quite a nice kind of crossover rock that they have there. It feels like traditional but current. I know that makes no sense, but that is how I feel about them. Really, really nice. And I hadn't heard these guys at all before going through this process. So, you know, it was excellent to find an awesome band that I didn't know.
Fantastic. All right, who's next?
Okay, so the third band that we're announcing for the takeover for this year is a band called Crushed by Waves. They are a gritty alternative 4-piece rock band from the Northwest. They only released their debut single, Seething, in late 2020, and they've been touring in the last few months. Comments from our panel were catchy on record, and this translates really well to the live set. Their live submission showed high energy, and the drummer stole the show. And their writing, stage presence, and performance is incredibly high for quite a new band. So yeah, again, looking forward to seeing what they bring into that middle slot.
Do you know, that sounds amazing. Trish, what do you think?
These guys were ones that, as Hevs said, they got quite a lot of support from the panel. For me, they were a band that they're going to sit really well with the Avalanche crowd that we've got this year, and the kind of Avalanche style bands that you tend to find. They sit really somewhere between metal and emo, which is really nice. And they're just a little bit different. Again, very new, very young, but you can feel that because you can feel the energy that's coming through from them when they're performing. So I'm really excited to see what they bring with it.
Charlie.
So I've seen these guys a couple of times and super impressed. Considering how long they've been going, the songwriting and the catchy hooks that they've got is just really, really good. A really great bunch of guys as well. You can tell that they're thoroughly enjoying doing what they're doing, which is just a beautiful thing to see. But yeah, I'm expecting big things from them in coming years.
Eamon?
Yeah, so what really sold me on these was not just their music, but how they translate it live. And for such a new band as well that haven't been on the scene that long, especially half of that being COVID, they really have their live presence nailed. They translate it in terms of their sound, in terms of their presence. And yeah, they're just an all-round class act.
Leigh, the way that Hevs described them sounded amazing, didn't it? Do you know these guys?
Do you know what? The name rings a bell, I have to admit. And I've just tried to have a look on my phone to see if I recognise it. And yeah, again, it does sound very interesting and very intriguing. I'm actually a bit gutted, and to be honest, I have a slap on the wrist because I'm not doing the full week this year round. So I'm not actually going to be able to see anything, which I'm actually really upset by, especially after the announcement of all the bands of the main download as well. But these are bands that I definitely get to check out. And I love discovering new stuff. So yeah, I look forward to listening to them.
I feel like these guys would be right up your street, Leigh, to be perfectly honest. There's probably one other coming up that I think would really sit with you, but I think these guys, 100%, having heard some of your music taste in the past, I think these guys would sit really well with you.
Yeah, definitely.
Cool.
Amazing. Who's next?
There's your homework.
Yeah, that is, yeah. This is what I said this already. Like, this is what I love about the Boardie Takeover. It gives me this opportunity for homework before coming and seeing live. I did it. I've been doing it every year since I've been going to download, and even last year with your yourself, Charlie. Obviously, I'd never heard of the band before. Obviously, you got announced just before the pandemic, or during the pandemic, I can't remember now, but I spent 2 years listening to Seething, Akira, Borders, Red Method, and when finally getting to see them last year at the Takeover, it was absolutely insane. I think actually I might have missed Borders because I took a smack in the face during your set and ended up in the medical tent.
Sorry.
It was worth it. It was amazing. It was worth it.
Well, that's good to hear and bad to hear.
It was worth it. It was fine.
It was all right. He had his face glued up.
Yeah, that was fine.
Go on, Hevs. Who's next?
So the penultimate band that we're announcing today are Confessions of a Traitor. These are a quite heavy but melodic band hailing from London. They've got really melodic elements combined with absolutely brilliant crushing grooves. Some of the comments that we got from the panel were big yes from me, good on record, seem to hold their quality alive, and they're so ready for an opportunity like this, and they'd very much have that crowd bouncing for sure, and finally super energetic and a great stage show. So yeah, wow. These will be the fourth band that we're announcing today.
Incredible. Shorty E, I'd like to hear what you've got to say.
That is me. So for me, these guys really kind of, you know, when you sort of hear something for the first time, it just clicks with you straight away, and you kind of just associate with it. I didn't have to go back and replay stuff. It was just something about them that really clicked with me. They've got really kind of catchy riffs, catchy hooks, catchy choruses, and they're heavy as well, which really helps. And their live stuff's really good as well. So yeah, a big tick in the box for me. Really looking forward to them.
Charlie.
I hate to go on about attractive frontmen, but Steve, the front guy, he's just a giant, and he looks incredible. He's so good on stage, great stage presence. The band's been around for some time now, and I've seen them live a few times, and they've just improved so much over the years. And it's definitely one of those bands that I think they're just excellent at what they do, and this sort of opportunity for them is like really well earned. You know, it's one of those. Yeah. But yeah, really, really pleased to see them get through.
What do you reckon, Trish?
Well, I had my head buried in my phone there because funnily enough, I've got a spreadsheet with all the bands we've ever.
Of course,
Of course, I've got a spreadsheet. And I was trying to remember. These guys applied in 2019 and 2020.
Yeah.
2020, they got through, like out of the first listen, all the rest of it. And like to see them, as Charlie says, to see them progress, improve and really keep moving up. It's fantastic. So to see them get to the point this year that they have, it's a huge tick for us. Like, you know, seeing that the guys that apply year in, year out, and they take away some of, watching the takeover with other bands, things like that. They take it in, they go away, they come back improved, submit again. So to be able to put a band like that through and onto the stage this year, it's huge because, you know, as Charlie said, the guys have been around for years. So seeing them, the hard work pay off, I think is going to be an amazing set. As Hev said, they've got such a unique sound with the kind of melody and melodic stuff and that really kind of heavier side to them as well. So I think, especially being penultimate on the stage on the day, I think it's definitely going to be one to watch.
This does sound like an incredible lineup so far. What do you reckon, Leigh?
Yeah, this Confession of a Traitor band that I've heard of again, and just listening to the way you describe them, can anyone just sneak me in for this week for the download weekend so I can see this, because I've missed a trick here. I really have. The lineup, even so far, even if you were to go ahead with these four bands, it sounds amazing. So yeah, this is awesome. I'm actually worried about who you're going to announce as the headliner, because it's just going to make me have FOMO even more.
Yeah, I think you're going to feel this one.
Yeah.
I have a funny feeling you're going to feel this one.
This is the other one that I thought would be.
Do you know what? I'm actually really worried now.
Yep.
I don't want to hear this. I'm
yeah.
Go on.
you might want to lie down. So
put your fingers in your ears, Leigh.
Yeah.
Let's get on and announce our final band, and the band that will be headlining the takeover this year is a band called October Ends. These are a 4-piece metalcore hardcore band from Newcastle, who were so popular with everyone on our panel. They were on almost every single spreadsheet that was handed in to me. I personally really enjoyed listening to them. I was really pleased to see them on the spreadsheets, and I was really happy to see them go through to the final selection. And the comments that we got from the panel, one of our panel members said, when I got to this band, I ended up going down a Spotify, YouTube rabbit hole listening to all of their other songs. And another comment, great music, good chemistry and excellent stage presence. They've taken this a stage further. They've fused metalcore and death metal. It's interesting and really compelling to listen to. These guys are actually out on tour at the moment. They're playing Weston-super-Mare on the 27th, Camden on the 29th, and Newcastle on the 30th. You can see their website for details of venues. So if you're in those areas and you can make it along their gigs, I would strongly recommend that you attend. These guys are absolutely phenomenal. I absolutely love them. And there wasn't a person, I don't think there was a person on the panel that didn't like them. So yeah, those are their headliners, October Ends.
Leigh, you are practically bursting.
Well, considering the I can't considering, like I said, I can't be at the takeover. I've actually just quickly done a Google search of when they're playing, and I've actually got I got the gig on my phone. I'm very tempted to buy it now, but I have plans on the Camden date, which is a shame because that lineup. Oh, well done, guys! That's awesome. Seriously, that's a good set of bands, and yeah, I'm truly gutted that as it stands, I'm only doing the Saturday. But yeah, I wish all the bands the best of luck. I hope you five have a great time as well. Yeah, I'm a bit gutted, but all the same.
Trish, let's hear your thoughts.
Well, October Ends for me were the standout band of the whole thing. Like literally every band we listened to, them and Andromedus for me were the two that were absolute musts. So to have the takeover kind of bookended with those two for me is fantastic. Listening to them, they are a band that again is going to sit well with that Avalanche crowd. Nice little crossover with some of the kind of Dogtooth style bands that we have. But they've also had a slight foray into the kind of rap rock world as well, and they've done a video with Kid Bookie, who is playing this year as well. So they've got basically all the tick boxes. And for me, this is the type of band that needs the platform for the next step for them, you know, getting them that exposure. But I'm just really chuffed that they're at the top as well, because I'll be doing the quiz for some of the lower down bands, the RIP quiz, but I will actually be able to get up to the takeover in time to see these guys, and I'm rather excited.
Are you going to fangirl again?
Probably.
Definitely.
Let's be honest.
Trish had a little fangirl moment last year. Yeah.
To be fair, I do most years. I think the year that the City of Zebras plays, that was the one. That was great. But yeah.
Eamon, let's hear your thoughts.
I mean, pretty much echoing what Trish has said, but when I was going through the 500 bands this year, I had a ridiculous scoring system, which I regret in all honesty, because it was complicated and it took me twice as long as it should have done. But these were probably the only band I think on my list that scored pretty much top marks in every single box. You know, there was a lot of talent in there this year, but these were the absolute standout for me. Without a doubt, their live stuff's great, their music's fantastic. I will be running with Trish, armed with various forms of alcohol yet again to the takeover after the quiz. And it's going to be a manic time. It's going to be lovely.
Charlie.
Yeah, I just think these guys have just kind of got everything. Old Shorty there talking about ticking the boxes. He's right. It's just like everything they do well. Loving kind of like the diverse nature of what they do, and they are really good at it. Like, I mean, it's obvious. You know, they're extremely polished as well, but they have that stage presence, and like for them to be headlining, they're gonna just smash that. That is clearly going to work. And I think having those guys at the top and having the likes of Andromedus around, North Atlas, the whole lineup is really nice and diverse, and that's one thing that I really liked seeing in this whole process. So yeah, just a great lineup and a great headliner.
So out of the, was it 527 something bands that applied, we've got a cracking lineup, haven't we? I think there's a great selection there that everyone can look forward to seeing. So the takeover this year is happening on the Wednesday, isn't it?
Yeah, that's correct. Yep, it's on the Wednesday. We normally kick off about 5. However, this year with us having bands in the arena on the Thursday night, the organisers are trying to have to squeeze a bit more into the Wednesday night. So we've been pulled forward a bit. So the takeover will kick off at 2 p.m. this year, and will be on till 6:45 p.m. We will have a poster out later on this week with all the bands' names on it. And shortly after that, we will have, once we've figured out what time everybody's going on at, we'll put out a time nearer the festival, nearer the day, of what time each band's going on. So please don't email me and ask me and message me on the takeover group and ask me what times they are, because it happens every year. I get about 1 million messages going, "What time is this band going on?" I've not figured it out yet. Let me figure it out and I'll get back to you. It will be posted on the takeover page as soon as we have that information.
So commiserations to the ones who didn't make it, but you can always apply again for next time, can't you? Yeah. Because I understand it was quite tight with some of them nearly made it, some of them nearly scraped through, but it was quite tricky to narrow it all down. And congratulations to those final 5. Now, Charlie, you were one of those final 5 at one point, weren't you?
I was, yeah.
So you've been through this whole process from the other side. Can you talk us through what it's like to? I mean, did you think? When you applied, were you thinking, "Well, we've got a good chance. We could have a go at this. Why don't we just?" No. It's never like
you never think this stuff's going to happen. You never think it's going to pan out. And it's just such an incredible opportunity. And it's so hard. I mean, you've heard those numbers, right? And being on this side of the fence this year and actually seeing the process, and it's still, to me, it's still mind-boggling that we even got through. It's so hard to get through. But there's just so much talent out there. It's phenomenal. But the opportunity, it was phenomenal for Seething Akira. It come at an amazing time, and super thankful for that. It can definitely be a platform for any band that manages to get on that stage and get in front of that sort of crowd and those people. It just adds that visibility. But it's just phenomenal, but super hard. I had no idea how hard it was. I was close to tears on most days. Number one, the deadlines, Hev puts you under it, right? You haven't got long, you've got to get a move on. So you've got to get through these things, but you've got to make sure that you give the attention to every band, right? So, you're hitting some hours doing it. But also the the heartache of losing some of the bands that you want through, and simply just because there's 5 places is like extremely hard. There's a ton of bands that deserve this opportunity, but not everyone can get through. I
think at one point Charlie made a comment on the takeover on the secret page saying, "Why did nobody tell me how emotionally what was the word you used? How emotionally distraught this is going to make me, or something." I can't remember what word you said.
It is. It's so horrible. It's
like, why did nobody tell me this was going to tear a hole in my heart? And it is. It's that difficult. It's really, really. I mean, Trish and I are used to it because we've been doing this for a number of years now. But it doesn't get any easier. It doesn't. We might be used to doing it, but we're still sitting with 527 bands, wishing that you had all the stages and all the days and all the time that you could put every single band on. And you want to give every single band that same opportunity, but you know that you can't because you've only got 5. Well, it's usually 7, but we're down to 5 this year because of time constraints. But you've got 5 slots. You can't put every single band into 5 slots, and it is heartbreaking. There were 23 bands on that shortlist, and there wasn't a bad band amongst them. They were all exceptionally good. They were all really talented. They were all enjoyable. They were all. Of course, some people lean more towards other bands than they do to some bands, but that's just natural. But you've got to make the choice. It's got to be made. And I know how difficult it is.
You get so emotionally invested in it because you get so emotionally invested, right? Music holds something for people, and to spend so much of your time listening to this number of bands. Now, don't get me wrong, there are some bands that when that initial submission comes in, you click play and you click stop, right? But for the majority, for the large majority of them, no, there are some where you just go, what the fuck?
You go,
No. I remember one year we had a guy who was just basically dressed as a clown, petting drums.
I remember him.
My God.
Yeah, we were like, look, what? Like, I think I lasted longer than 30 seconds out of sheer, like, I don't know what's happening.
What's going on?
But for the most part, the large majority of bands that you listen to, you can hear the passion in what they're doing, right? Mm-hmm. And when you've listened to them for so much time over that short space, you do become emotionally invested and attached to them. They're bands that will end up in your top whatevers. We've had a couple of bands over the years that haven't got through on the takeover themselves, but have ended up playing the Courtyard stage in RIP. Mm-hmm. So it's like, yeah, we're going to go and support them because, hang on, they were on my shortlist. Yes, I am. And you don't realise just how attached you get to them until you get to the point of somebody saying, but I think they shouldn't go through, and then you're like, hang on a minute, no.
That's when the arguments begin. Yeah, that's when the arguments start, and people start saying, well, no, actually, I don't agree with this, I think. And you have to, have people on the panel with that passion for the bands that they're listening to, that want to support the bands that they like and want to push for the bands to play. And they give the reasons. They'll say, we want them to play because, we think they're better. And when you get down to like the last 10 bands, that's where it goes. They then start, popping at each other and saying, well, no, I don't agree with that. I think this, or, it gets really difficult. There's bloodshed.
Were there any bands
tears.
that caused any arguments this year?
Was there?
I wouldn't say arguments. There were a few back
disagreements,
and forwards.
right?
Yeah. Discussions.
There were a few. Yeah, there were a few. Despite the fact that I said that Charlie was an A&E, he really wasn't. He wasn't.
There were a couple of bands.
I felt beat up.
There were a couple of bands that started discussions where it was around some of what they had done in the past. Did they need it? Was it something they were going to benefit from? And that's where you tend to find, we see this every year anyway, but that's where you tend to find you get the passion for the music, but then you get the other side of it of, well, do they need it? They've played the Sophie Lancaster stage at Bloodstock, so not the New Blood stage, the Sophie Lancaster stage. and they're still playing in pubs outside of that. What are they going to do with this chance? And that's where your kind of debates and discussions start, really. There were none that really caused out and out arguments this year, that I saw anyway.
No,
again,
no.
I was
Very
ill
polite,
for
very polite.
a lot of the week.
Very polite. Although we did have one person who was perfectly willing to flaunt the rules to have a band that he liked play. And he made no bones about telling us that as well. But, you know, this was a band that had, as Trish said, already played the Sophie Lancaster stage at Bloodstock, who had that opportunity, who clearly hadn't taken their band any further beyond that opportunity, and we're now applying for the takeover, which we would consider the takeover something that you would do before you played the Sophie Lancaster stage at Bloodstock. So, you know, there was a bit of to and fro about that, but overall they were a very well behaved lot this year. They really were.
They were actually.
They were all very respectful.
Considering Eamon was involved,
considering Eamon was there, that, you know, he was just there for to make jokes, jokes about lead singers looking like Thor and sending them back to Asgard because he was too handsome. But yeah, that was quite funny. But yeah, it's a very, you get years where some people are a bit more, I wouldn't say aggressive with their opinions, but a bit more passionate with their opinions, a bit more driven, because they really, really believe in the band that they're fighting for. And sometimes it works. And, you know, sometimes they get the rest of the panel coming up and saying, well, no, actually, we think you're wrong. And you've got to go with the majority on that sort of thing. Or we'd still be there now arguing about it.
Isn't it ultimately you, Hevs, who has to make that decision in terms of, you know, whether, let's say, Eamon's really passionate about a particular band, and if he makes a really good argument, you go, oh, actually, well, maybe.
I don't make good arguments.
Oh, don't you?
Eamon doesn't make arguments. He wears people down.
He just puts you down to submission. So obviously I'm the main organizer on it. So when the guys are putting across their opinions of the bands and they're having that conversation, I, as I said earlier, step back from that. I don't go in and say, well, I really like these guys, blah, blah, blah. I just let everyone else do it, because I don't want anybody to feel like they have to align themselves with me. And I think sometimes people can be subconsciously guilty of that. So if I went in and said, oh, I really liked October Ends, they're absolutely brilliant, they're really good live, somebody else might go, well, if Hevs likes them, then, you know, maybe I should like them as well. And I try and avoid that. And then I send Trish in, and Trish tries to like poke the bear a little bit. And if somebody says, you know, something about a band, Trish will go, but this. And she'll throw in a little curveball, and she'll give them something to think about. And then she'll turn and they'll go, oh, I didn't think about that. And then, you know, the conversation then flows from there. But ultimately, if I felt that a band was being picked that I genuinely thought we're not going to go down well on that stage, I would veto it happily. But I've never had to do it.
No, well, I think there was one band where it was a couple of years back. There was one band, and it was basically split, and it was down to you and it came down to me making the decision whether or not they played, and I went away and thought about it and came back, and ultimately my answer was no. I didn't feel they should play, because the comments that I was getting on the negative side were outweighing the comments I was getting on the positive side. But again, this year there was a conversation again. We're going back to the band that had already played Bloodstock. And they were still in the running because people had them on the short lists. But when I did a bit of background digging and thought, well, you know, these guys have already played this really big opportunity. They've already had this stage to play on. And, you know, people were coming at me and saying, well, you know, we still think they should play anyway. So I had to say, well, actually, no, they don't, because that's the rule. We have a rule in place for a reason. We can't just be seen to be jumping outside that rule whenever the fancy takes us. So we're sticking to the rule, and I took them out of the running.
You know what, Hevs? That was like really, really good to see at the time. Like, I hadn't even thought about before like entering and doing this stuff with you guys. I didn't realize that rule was in place, but it really it's a really good rule, right? Because it makes sure that bands that haven't had the opportunities are being able to get it, as opposed to that. So there was a band that I was quite keen on that it changed my mind when that was flagged. I was like, oh yeah, I didn't realise that, but yeah.
Because in the background, Trish and I are looking. Trish and I are looking at the background of the bands and looking where they've played before, and what kind of, if they've got a record deal, who's it with? What kind of record companies it with? How big are they? How affluent are they? How much money have they got? All those sorts of things come into play. But yeah, they haven't played, and in particular, we get a shit ton of bands that have played Bloodstock applied to play Takeover.
Really?
I would probably say like at least 150 bands. Would that be a fair count? At least 150 bands.
Yeah, easily.
Bloodstock, New Blood, Techfest, the various Hard Rock Hells. Those are the three big ones for us.
Yeah.
And it's always about where they play on those lineups. If it's the New Blood stage and it's because they've got through on Metal to the Masses, or they've had an opportunity and this is the next step for them, great, thumbs up, massive thumbs up for that. The same with Techfest. If they're playing lower down the bill on Techfest, because you get a lot of up and coming, especially on the post-rock, post-hardcore, metalcore scene, you get that's where they go. So yeah, 100%. The same with Hard Rock Hell. For all Hard Rock Hell's failings at the moment, like they did have a history of bringing through a lot of newer, smaller bands. So again, thumbs up, because it gives us a chance to see what can they do on a stage. On a festival stage, because it can be different from a normal gig. But when you're talking about a difference between playing third down at Techfest, headlining Hard Rock Hell, or playing on the Sophie Lancaster stage at Bloodstock, that's where you kind of have to start to go, well, hang on, do these guys actually need it? And we work hard to try and make sure that when bands get through to the shortlist, they aren't bands like that, but there are going to be ones that slip through the net, and it's only really when you start to dig into them a little bit more. It does make me laugh a little bit when bands literally submit them playing on the Sophie Lancaster stage, for example, for an up and coming. It's like, we had one band years ago who played Whiskey A Go Go in LA and submitted that video, and we were like, yeah, that's no.
Yeah,
that's just a no.
There was one band this year who submitted their download third stage video.
Yeah, they actually had already played the third stage at Download Festival, and they submitted that footage to the Takeover.
Yeah,
so that was an immediate no. Do you know that was and they were good. They were really good. But they've had that opportunity. That's like a step back for them, really, isn't it? I mean, it's kind of like taking Metallica and putting them in the second stage to headline. Do you know, it's not where you would put them. But yeah, it was good fun this year. We had a lot of really good bands. There was a lot of difficult choices made. The panel were fantastic this year again. I do tend to drive them quite hard, as Charlie says. I'm constantly on at them. I need your shortlist. I need you to make a decision. Now I need you to go and start talking about the bands. Now I need you to comment more. No, I need everybody to comment. I'm constantly on their backs, and they take it like champs. There's nobody complains. They just go, oh, okay. And I don't know what that says about, I don't know what that says about me, but maybe I'm just a really scary person.
We'll be chatting with the five bands who've made it onto the stage during the run up to Download Festival. So look out for those chats; they will be forthcoming. Charlie, I need to know: did you have the sort of responsibility feeling for knowing that the fate of these bands, or at least partially, is in your hands? Just because having gone through it, you've no knowledge really of what the process is like. But now being on this side, you're thinking, well, they really deserve it, and they deserve it, and because as a musician, I guess you're a lot more, sort of connected to it, aren't you?
Neill, these are feelings I was trying to get away from. I've done it.
I know. I'm sorry to bring them up again.
No, I'm joking.
But we need to enjoy them as a group. Let's look at this as group therapy.
But yeah, that's why it was legit. I joke, but that's why it was legitimately quite hard and quite emotional, because I understand what the opportunity is, which is, you know, like, I know how much bands want to do this. Like, I really, really do. And it is horrible when you've got to narrow that stuff down. But it, you know, with just 5 bands, like, it's, like I said, there is so many bands that could go down well, but there's only 5 spaces. But yeah, it was, the responsibility was definitely there. And it's, I don't know, it was really, really, really tough when it got down to like those final, well, the 23, it was 23, wasn't it? That's when it really started to hurt, because, you know, you're bringing, that's where people have really brought the bands that they love into that forum effectively. And when you start losing those and they're dropping out, that's when it's like, it's hurting a bit there.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was tough.
Any words of wisdom for those 5 bands who've made it through?
Just enjoy it. Absolutely enjoy it. Let yourself go, you know, like, look out there, enjoy the moment, because it goes really, really fast. It goes way, way too quick. Just have fun and relax with it as well. You know, these sort of things can be quite nerve-wracking when, you know, it's bigger and bigger stages. But the bottom line is that, advice to these bands, right? Everyone's played in front of 2 people. Like, we've all done that. We've all been there. That's happened. But yeah, you know, every gig you should play like it's Wembley, pretty much. So yeah, that's my advice.
Okay. Any other words of wisdom from anybody else? Any words of advice for these bands who are going to go up on the stage?
Just enjoy it.
Just
enjoy it.
Just second what Charlie was saying, like, just enjoy it, express yourself in a way like you are headlining a massive arena or a massive stadium, and just have fun with it. It's I love these sorts of things, like I said earlier, the Boardie Takeover, Metals of the Masses. I love these sort of things. It's this discovery of bands that, again, you'd never heard before. We've seen the likes of the Metallicas, Korns, and all over TV for the last 30, even 40 years. And this is your opportunity to be that person. Imagine 30 years down the line, and people can say, that's my favourite band now. And I was there when they first started. Just enjoy yourself, be as expressive as possible. Honestly, I'm so jealous that I might not even be able to be there. The FOMO is going to be insane. So yeah, I hope you guys will have fun for me.
No, we will.
Leigh,
we will.
Wasn't the Boardie Takeover where you first saw Envisions?
Oh no!
Oh what? That band there?
Yeah.
This
is that where you first saw them?
Yeah, this is precisely what I'm talking about. It was 2018, and you'd announced them, and it was again just a sort of a discovery that they were something a little bit different at the time, I thought. And then to see them live, despite the fact I was hungover when they came on because I'd been drinking during the day, and it was not a good. I had a horrible headache. But even during them, it was, as this music suggests, it was love at first sight. And I have continued to follow them and support them ever since. And I'm actually seeing them.
Have you seen them now?
I can't remember, but I'm seeing them again in a couple of weeks. They're playing it. They're playing. Yeah, they're so playing. Playing Boston Music Rooms. So yeah, I'm venturing down that way to go and see them again, and yeah, really looking forward to it.
But you love them as well, don't you, Trish?
Yeah, huge fan.
Yep.
I kind of half knew about them before they applied for the takeover. because they'd done some bits with the 500. 500 are a Nottingham band. They're a bit of a staple in Nottingham. And I kind of knew of them through that. I think they'd done MacFest, which was a local, day festival to us. So these were one of the bands that I fought for. It was one of those ones when I fought for them, because they were, for me that year, they were something completely different, and they 100% matched the way that the festival was going. And similar to Leigh, I've kind of followed them since all the way through. Haven't seen them anywhere near as much as Leigh. I had a wedding to pay for during COVID, so not a lot of gigs. But they are a band that, for me, are the epitome of what the takeover's about and what they've done with it as well, right? Because they've just gone up and up and up and up and up. They're the epitome of a band that has used the takeover as a springboard and ran with it and gone with it. To see them go from essentially what I think the first time I saw them at Macmillan Fest, they were about halfway down the day. The last time MacFest was on, they were headlining one of the rooms. Was incredible. I mean, I almost died that day.
That was hilarious.
Yeah, you did.
One minute. Sorry to interrupt. 1 minute, I'm standing, because I went to Trish's that weekend at Macmillan Fest to watch them, and I'm standing talking to Trish, and I looked away, and when I looked back, all I saw was Trish's arse disappearing into the crowd, arms in the air, like, whoa! and I was like, where the fuck is she going? And she just straight into the middle and starts, whoa, throwing her arms around it, bouncing off of people, and I'm like, oh my god, what is she doing? Crazy woman. That was so funny.
I got into
one of the highlights of my life, that.
I got into quite a lot of trouble from my then fiance, now husband, for that. But again, they're just a band that, similar to Leigh, I've followed all the way through. I am a little bit gutted that I've not managed to get to this tour, to be honest. But again, it's just circumstances haven't allowed. Another band that I go incredibly starstruck and shy around, despite the fact every time I see them, they'll come and say hello, because they know Heather and I. And they're like, hiya, how are you? And I'm like, giggle, giggle, giggle. Even now, years later, still giggle, giggle, giggle.
I know. So funny.
Fantastic. So make sure you turn up to the Boardie Takeover, watch these bands. You may discover a new favourite. And you'll be running into the crowd with your arms in the air.
Probably will.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks everyone for joining us today. Follow us on the socials by looking for Festpod if you're new to us, if you're seeing us for the first time perhaps and you want to see what else we do. We've also got a Discord server if you want to chat with other Festpod listeners, other like-minded people. Look on our link tree for the address, which is linktr.ee/Festpod. We're also now on Patreon if you want to support the show with a small contribution to get access to our outtakes and support some merch. We've also got merch available to buy on Etsy. So just search for Festpod on there to find it. And if you're listening to us on your podcast app, don't forget that there is a video version on YouTube. So subscribe to us there. Or if you're watching us on YouTube, subscribe to us on your podcast app and take Festpod with you. So you've got to do it everywhere. So thanks for watching, and we'll catch you again next time. A Wilco Productions podcast.
Bye-bye, driver.